Well, welcome everyone to the Classical Crossfire Magazine interview with the incredible Sarah Brightman. Sarah, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to speak with you.
No, it's lovely to talk to you. How are you all? I know we've all been through this really unusual time, but we seem to be getting out of it because I'm in London at the moment and all the theatres are opening and I've been to a few shows and they're all packed with people and no one's getting sick, so it's been fine.
Oh yeah, it's incredible, really, just to this period that we've gone through, and then at the same time virtually gotten to do new opportunities. I know you will have with this wonderful A Christmas Symphony, which we'll talk about in a minute. But
Yes.
actually, I wanted to talk to you because it seems like you've had this incredible career. You're the best-selling soprano in the world, right? You must have always been living out of a suitcase, always doing different things. So for this period where it's been kind of just staying still, what's that been like in your world?
Well, I can't say I enjoyed the feeling because it was a forced circumstance.
Okay.
But at the same time, I remember at the beginning of it, thinking, okay, I need to be useful to myself and useful to others. So what can I do? So my mother, who lives in the south of England, and my brother are vulnerable. So I thought, great, I'll be allowed to go down to them, help with medical supplies, food, all of those things, and actually keep their spirits up by just kind of being near. And then in a week, I went into a bubble with my singing coach here in England, and I was able to do a complete refresh of my vocals in the week. So that for me really kept me going. And then I was very lucky in that France opened up for a while on one of the summers or two of the summers. So I was able to go over there and I had an album out there and I was able to do lots of TV shows and promote that. And it was a wonderful success. So it wasn't all that bad, but the best thing was doing my Christmas streaming show because I was desperate to just keep the spirits up because we got locked down just before Christmas here. So I thought, okay, we found permission to go into a church and I was able to employ musicians and it was just a joyous occasion and had an overwhelming response. So that's why I wanted to do a Christmas show in the United States at the end of this year.
And I mean, Christmas in general just really lifts the spirits. It provides joy. So I love that you did that. And tell us what that felt like, because that was your first ever global live stream, right? So what did that feel like to be using that medium?
It was a bit scary because you're in a different situation to what I've been in before. But I got lots of rehearsal. I have a nice roomy apartment, so I was able to rehearse with myself a lot, and I had room to walk around and really get the feeling of like when you're on stage. So I could do that. I've got a piano here and everything, and then and so really just doing it felt very natural, really, because we all had time to do lots of preparation. Mm-hmm. So it was good.
And so tell us, I know for you, your shows, they're these spectaculars. And I've heard you say that when you plan for a show, you kind of start seeing it visually as well as the repertoire. So for A Christmas Symphony, were there any kind of visual elements that you thought and wanted to have as you started planning?
Well, for me, I mean, I'm quite traditional when it comes to Christmas. And I'm it's a very personal thing for me, Christmas time for me and my family. And I think I know what it is that generally people want, whether they're Christians or not, or just when they want to come to something at that time of year, which of course is a wonderful time of year for everyone. And so choosing the repertoire, it was quite fun ticking all the boxes in that it gave me more room to do all sorts of things. It wouldn't be just Christmas carols so I mixed it up. I have some very Christmas pieces in there which have sort of religious overtones to them that we, as Christians, we know as our songs of that time. But I also have songs which are more seasonal that talk about it being in the winter time, loss of love, gain of love, all of those things. And also I have some beautiful orchestral pieces. I've got wonderful choir pieces. I also got a little progressive rock, which touches on on Christmas in there. And I've got some fun Christmas songs, which are just fun that everybody knows. So, and a lot of my, quite a few of my own hits as well, which hit the Christmas spirit. So it's a complete mixture of things.
And for you, the repertoire has always been, it's so diverse. And I've heard you say that it's not about just loving the song, but it's about the right time and it being right for your voice. So for you, have there been songs that you've loved, but you thought, not for me, and then maybe this isn't the right time, but then later it was the right time for that piece?
Yes, I mean, the last thing you said, that often happens. You kind of know you're right, but it doesn't feel right to do it at this particular point. And there are lots of songs which I would love to sing, but I'm better off just having them on my iPlayer or and listening to them that way and just enjoying them as you have to be very sort of direct with yourself to say, is this just for my own enjoyment, or is this something that I should be doing? Because voices are made to do particular things. So so that's a lot of how I do choose repertoire. At the end of the day, I find it down to what my voice is suited to.
And you mentioned doing a complete vocal refresh there. So, we hear a lot about the male voice change, but to me, female voices, we keep changing our entire life. So what are some of the things for you that you find that you've been working on during this most recent session with your teachers?
Often you find you get into, as you're touring, you get into little habits that you don't realize. They're small little things, but the only way I can describe it, it's a bit like the spine on your back. Often people will go to a chiropractor and they'll say, I'm hurting, it hurts here, but then it hurts there. And the chiropractor will do things, or the osteopath or whatever, and they'll say it's just small adjustments, but they do need a professional hand to do them. So that's why as singers, I suppose we just spend our life going to vocal coaches, singers, all of these things, and also working on your body with your yoga or your Pilates or whatever to keep all your core strengths. So it was really about doing that. And also with my age and everything, I needed a little refresh to look at also different kind of repertoire, what I would suit now. And it gave me a whole sort of like year and a half, 2 years to do that, which has been wonderful. So there were upsides to that funny time that we've been living in for me.
Absolutely. I think we've all learned some fun things. So did you pick up any hobbies during this kind of sort of down period?
I learned to cook.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, I could not. I remember my partner, he came over to stay for a while, and because he lives abroad, and he said, I've never had so many 70s style meals before. I was living in the 70s. And of course, the last time I'd done cooking was with my mother in the 70s before I left home. So that was all I knew how to do, which is very funny. So my sisters thought this was very hilarious. So they taught me basically to cook again in the modern contemporary way.
So what's your go-to dish now then?
Oh, that's difficult to say because I love food. That's really difficult. I have to say I'm very, very fond of Japanese food. I love Japanese food, but it's not something I prefer to sort of either buy that or go to a restaurant to have it. Okay. I don't know. Food generally is a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing for people.
Absolutely. And it brings people together. You have everyone around the table. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So being that we're Classical Crossover Magazine, this is what we're, dedicated to. Obviously, you've been a huge pioneer for this genre. So I have to ask you, I know that you were inspired kind of by Joan Sutherland, and she mentioned that one of her inspirations was Deanna Durbin. I wonder if you've ever heard of her?
Oh, of course. Yes, absolutely. Brilliant. And yes.
That was kind of the old time. It was crossover in a way because they were doing some opera, some things, but you really helped turn it into a genre and something that was recognized on its own. So can you tell us a little bit as you started to do that, like your reactions, what you were thinking, what people were thinking around you as you were starting to really bring classical crossover to life?
Well, the thing is, it was really a combination of things. It was never particularly calculated.
Okay.
It was just that I think I had been singing. I'd had pop records out. I'd been singing in musical theatre. I'd been training in the classical way for classical singing, and I have a very eclectic taste of music. I know a lot about all different types of music, and because I traveled quite extensively through my life, I was, you know, world music is like it's a thing that is a sort of normality then, but then sort of further back it wasn't such a normality. So, and I had a lot of that repertoire in my mind because I'd heard so much of it in my younger days. So it was really just a combination of all those understandings of all the different types of music and all the different ways that I sang just started naturally coming together. And so, I mean, classical crossover, it really was the word, I suppose, was put there because there was nowhere to put people like myself that could combine all these things very naturally. So I think they just created a form for charts, basically, at that time when there were those kind of charts. And classical crossover then, as you know, was for sort of odd film bits and bits of jazz and something, that sort of thing. It wasn't really used that much for singers. So but it's now become a proper genre.
And do you, like, as you listen to the new singers now, Josh Groban, Jackie Evancho, do you have any thoughts, you know, where you'd like to see the genre go?
I don't really. No, because everybody has their own way of doing things, and we're all, as artists, we're all extremely unique. And yes, one artist may inspire a lot of others in a sort of, if they want to call it this particular genre. But I think everybody brings their own sort of thing to it. So no, I would not want to say anything to anybody.
So just, I guess, taking your examples, stay really authentic to who you are and the influences that are real to you.
Yes, because that's how it happened for me. It was just who I was at that particular time.
And so, of course, we have to mention Phantom a little bit. You know, it's such a wonderful, enduring musical. And you, of course, were the first Christine, the muse for Christine. So when you see this musical, how it is now, what do you think? I mean, obviously the music, but what are the elements that you think just continue to resonate over and over, just like new audiences come back to hear that? What do you think that magic is?
Well, of course, it's probably a whole combination of things. All the ingredients for for this particular cake were right.
Yeah.
But you can't make a cake without it being the idea of the cake. So it's the idea, and the idea, of course, is the story. Yeah. And the base of it, the story of it, is that it's something that everybody can relate to. Everyone on the earth can relate to it. So that's really where it started. And then it was just the combination of all these brilliant people coming in and starting to put it together and understanding, and artists and everything. And it just worked. It worked right from the beginning. It's just something about it.
Yeah, it just continues to be so beautiful. I know the inspiration for so many singers as well. So you mentioned going to the theater. So I'm curious to know if you know, as you listen to new musicals, is there one or two that you're thinking, maybe this kind of has that same magic that will just resonate for years to come?
Well, it's the thing about I call them evergreens because none of them are the same. The evergreens that have, you know, gone on forever, they just aren't the same. So who knows? I mean, I can't predict the theatre, the future. But of course, when I go to the theatre, I know what I enjoy and I know what I don't enjoy. Yeah. And sometimes what I don't enjoy, lots of other people do. So it's really that's great about theatre. It's a very personal choice. You know, I go with my mother, and I often go with my mother and her friend, and they're both older ladies, but they love to see everything. And sometimes their opinions will be completely different to mine on something. So that's what makes it also interesting.
Oh, absolutely. That's true. So tell us a little bit. So you did some live streaming, and there's a lot of, I'm sure, new technologies. I'm not so great with the lighting and everything, but I know that are coming up. So is there anything that you've experienced with your new shows that you're excited, any new kind of technical thing that you've been able to add?
Well, the thing about lighting now, whether it's modern, whether it's old school, whatever you want to do with it, it's really about creating, for me, it's about helping the song and the character and all of those things, help them create the atmosphere and the texture for people to watch. It's all about sort of like, how would I say, subliminal information to an audience. So when you darken something, it's obviously going to be sad or more gothic or mysterious. When you lighten something, you're in sunshine. I mean, they're very simple sort of analogies I'm using, but lighting is important for that. And I've always been one of those people that says, especially sort of from my background from theatre, there's no point in putting something there unless there's a good reason for it being there, because otherwise you confuse an audience thought. They're then distracted by that thing. So I'm not really one for gimmicks on stage, and that's also with lighting. So lighting for me is about enhancing. And I know when I was working with the sort of like on the Christmas show, Christmas is, you know, as I said earlier, it's a very personal thing. And you kind of have to, it's a very emotional thing for a lot of people. It's very important. So for the lighting to suggest feelings of joy or peace or suggest spirituality, all of those things, you can find so many ways of doing that with, especially with technology today. So it's an enhancement really than just, oh, lights.
It's about the story that you're trying to tell to the audience.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this is another kind of technical question, but as a singer, do you have a type of microphone that you like to use that kind of is best?
I have a few microphones that I like to use, and actually I find the older style ones, and I won't go into sort of technical details now, but the older style of microphones that they used back in the past are actually best for my voice. The Sheps, which is perfect for me, which is usually the microphone that picks up all the formants in the voice, and it's what they use for if they want to do an opera concert or something outside. So it picks up all those lovely formants that you know, everyone that loves sort of classical music, it picks up that. So that's one I'll use, for example.
So now let's go back to A Christmas Symphony, because obviously that tour is coming up. People can also watch it on PBS as well. But when you're about to go on tour, what are some of the things you start thinking about? Do you have like a checklist to make sure you have everything with you for the tour?
Yes, I do have checklists, and they change every day. I'm always scribbling things out. And there are so many things to do before a tour. I think that, I mean, I get surprised myself each tour that I do, how much there is to do, but you have to make it fun, and it takes all your time up. But the best thing, and I mean, I really learned this from being in theatre, the best thing is to be in absolute preparation before you go on. I hate that thing of it will be all right on the night. And that often happens in concerts and things. People think, well, I can sing it and it will all be fine. But actually, there's a lot more to it. I mean, I love to do a lot of costume changes. I find, like with the lighting, costumes also present information for people as well about who you are, what you're singing at that time. So that does actually take a huge amount of preparation. But the great thing for this Christmas tour is that all the fashion that's come out for Christmas this year is gorgeous, because I think everyone's been so sick of being at home in their PJs or their leggings and t-shirts that now they've just gone completely over the top. So there's everything you want for a Christmas show, lots of sequins and glitter and feathers, and it's absolutely beautiful. So I've had a good fun choosing that.
So when you come to your first concert that we're talking about is going to be November 27th at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. So when you come to New Jersey, New York, what are some of the things you enjoy doing when you're in that area?
Oh gosh, I mean, I have a small apartment in New York, so it's a very familiar city to me, and I mean, it's kind of the other side of London for me as well. I feel very easy in both. Um, do you know, to tell you the truth, one of my most favourite things are going to the Metropolitan Opera House
Mm.
and seeing a piece. It's just my most. I like to go to the ballet as well, but that just to go there, just I get very, very excited. So that's one of the things I like to do. To tell you the truth, just walking around New York is a joy to me. It's always forever changing, and it's just, I don't know, it's just a fun area. It's lovely.
The energy is quite intoxicating,
It
right?
is. It's gorgeous.
And so you mentioned going to shows a couple times now. So when you're not on stage, when you're just, Sarah, the concert goer, do you dress up or is it just kind of relaxed when you go out with your family or?
It completely depends on
Okay.
how I'm feeling. Just that. I think if I know that my seat's not going to be that good because I couldn't get a good seat or whatever, I tend to go in something more comfortable. But if I know that I've got a really great seat or I'm in a box or something like that, then I feel it's quite fun to dress up.
Okay.
But it's,
Uh,
do you know, going to the theatre, I mean, a lot of artists and a lot of directors and people, they'll go in because they're sort of getting information. It's almost a work thing.
hmm.
But for me, I always see it as an experience. I want to go and just enjoy myself.
So then you're able to turn off that analytical singer portion. Is that something you can do at home too? When you're listening to music, you can just kind of put all the technical out and just enjoy.
Sometimes I can, yes, I can.
Oh, that's awesome. Sometimes, yeah, to be able to turn that off, because otherwise I think that might be quite exhausting, right? If you can't
Well,
just
it
enjoy
is.
it.
It takes away the enjoyment of the arts for you. So I found it very important to to be able to switch off from work and just enjoy these things, because it's the reason why as artists we get into them to start with, is because we enjoy them so much. I mean, what a blessing. And I really realized through this, the last 2 years, how important the arts were. And I think everybody that enjoys the arts really did. I remember there's a lovely festival in England called the Buxton Music Festival, and they have a gorgeous opera house there. It's up in Derbyshire. And in fact, I did an opera years ago, children's opera. Charles Strauss actually wrote it, and it was called Nightingale. And I performed it there first. So it was lovely to go back there. I think it was in the summer I went, it was. And I went to see a little night music because I'd not seen it before. And the audience, I think it was the first time everybody had been out to the theatre, and they all sat there very silently with all their masks on, and it was pretty packed. And at the end, everybody was just crying because it was sheer relief that we could get out and go and see art again and in a communal way. So I think, I think it's good for the arts in a way. That's the upside of all of this, that people really realize what they've got there.
Absolutely, really treasure it and give value to
Yeah.
those musicians. Yeah.
Yes.
So I have to ask, you've done so many different periods in your music where you've explored different things. And sometimes, we look back and we say, oh, I wish I could relive it again because it was just so wonderful. So if there was like a period or an album that you could just relive just for the fun of it, which one would it be?
Of my albums you're talking about? Oh, they've all been fun. I really did like Eden. I found that very sort of spiritually rewarding for me. I was very, very hands-on with that album. Whereas the first album I wasn't so much, because I was very busy at the time, and we made it actually pretty fast. So it was a bit panicky making the first album, which was Time to Say Goodbye, or I think it was that album. The second one, I really took my time, and it paid off, because that was when I really started to get the whole of the concert area going, using my theatrical knowledge and all of those things, because I had more time to do it.
Yeah. And I think what's amazing about your music, it's very thorough composed, it's just like from beginning to end, it's something to listen to as a whole.
Yes, it's like it was like sort of a movie for me always, these albums, probably from my old days of Pink Floyd and David Bowie and all of those theme typed albums, which I was very inspired by as a teenager. So that's probably where it all came from.
Well, Sarah, it has been such a delight to speak to you. I'm going to ask you one more question, if I may, and that's just, I know all your fans are interested to know, you mentioned the album you did, France, but is there a new album in the works?
There's always a new album in the works. It's which one?
Okay.
So we're kind of there at the moment. I think the sort of COVID time, has slowed everything up a little bit, but there will be lots of new things to come, I promise.
Can't wait. So thank you so, so much, Sarah.
Thank you very much. Lovely talking to you.
Lovely talking to you, and hope everyone will have the information on the screen. Hope you go see the concerts and really support the live arts again. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Connections. It was just an absolute thrill to speak to Sarah, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. We hope that you'll be able to get out and support her with her A Christmas Symphony tour. And if you do enjoy this music, go ahead, hit subscribe, because that's what this magazine is all about. We offer physical copies on our website, classicalcrossovermagazine.us. And then we have interviews and concerts here. In fact, we're going to have an amazing Christmas concert called A Crossover Christmas. So if you haven't, go ahead, hit subscribe, ring the bell. And if you'd like exclusive behind the scenes content and to appear as one of our associate producers, please go ahead and join us on Patreon. Thanks again, guys, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.